Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. This is a re-record because my original version of this video was about 20 minutes long and I think that's just ridiculous. I had a bit too much of a rant about the recent Octomore single barrel. But anyway, what we have here is the sequel to a whiskey we reviewed quite a few months ago. This is the Bruichladdich End of Message 19-year-old, fully matured in a Chateau de Chem wine, sweet wine cask. 51.8% ABV. You know, this is what I think about when I think about Bruichladdich. I think about really fun, weird, interesting barrels, high strengths. This is one of only 253 bottles. It's got this really cool like airmail kind of logos and stuff on it, just like the 16. And on the back is the official Bruichladdich sort of private cask label. When I reviewed the 16-year-old, I emailed Bruichladdich and said, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And even they couldn't find information on it. This does say it's Bruichladdich Spirit, not Rins or Port Charlotte or Lochindahl or Octomore. There are a couple of tasting notes in the box, which I sadly threw away, that mention peat. I don't particularly get a lot of peat with it. But here it is in glass. Stunning burnt orange kind of colour. Such a memorable thing to smell. All like the positive notes that are on this are things like gingerbread and honeycomb. It's got this very warming, like Christmassy, welcoming thing to it. It's almonds and it's cherry Bakewell tarts. Little biscotti biscuits. The other side of it is it really does showcase how butyric, that's with a B, butyric, Bruichladdich Spirit can be. It almost sometimes has a little bit of this very acidic quality to it. It almost rings out like it comes across a little bit like really like farm fresh honey. It's got that really sweet quality to it, but it's also so sweet it's turning into savoury and it's turning into earthy, and then you've got these little acidic kind of things popping off around it. Let's taste it, and then I'll still do a little bit of a talk about the Bruichladdich single cask thing, but just not for 20 minutes. Up front you get quite a lot of fruit. It's this kind of slightly coconutty, honey, apricots in like a honey sauce kind of thing. It's quite rich with these little kind of flecks of tropicalness in it. As you sort of chew on it and move it around your palate, you get a classic Bruichladdich saltiness. There is a slight sulphuriness, which I don't particularly associate with Chateau de Chem. But I've also never tried anything matured in it for nearly 20 years. So I don't know where that sulphuriness is coming from. I can only assume it's maybe a combination of spirit and barrel. There's a huge apricot thing again. And again, more honey, more just like chewy, rich, sticky, sweet things. And then at the end of that slightly sulphuriness, there is that little fleck of butyric style. It almost comes across a little blue cheesy. That kind of acidity, that kind of moldiness almost, but also quite rich and creamy at the same time. It's a very distinctive style of whiskey with a remarkably dry finish to it. Apologies for the silence there. I realised that I didn't show you guys the body of this thing. This is a particularly memorable whiskey. I gave the 16-year-old a 9. Or was it an 8? I think it was an 8, actually. And I do like this. It's a bottle of whiskey where once you've tasted it, you will never forget it. I don't necessarily think it's better than the 16. because I'm not really fussed by sulphuriness and things like that. It never really bothers me. But even on the second sip of this, it's becoming very heavy, very dominant, very in there. I don't dislike it for that. It's not like my favourite bottle of whiskey ever, but it's something that I'll never forget drinking. Maybe 19 years in Chateau is a little bit too much. It's very fun, it's very exciting. It's not necessarily a positive thing, because those honey ginger notes are delicious. But then this sulphury thing is just, it's like I've blown out a match and like stuck it into my mouth. It's that level of sulphur. It's pretty intense. But still, on the scale of memorability, much like things like Cavalan Vino Barrique and a few other bottles, you will never forget drinking it, and it's got some particularly memorable notes. I'm going to score it a little bit lower than what I gave the 16. I'm going to give it a 7, because I'm not going to say that it's the most complex thing in the world, because it isn't. It is these very sort of sweet honey, apricot, gingerbread, slightly tropical things, and then you've got that big sulphury, acidic note at the back of it. Not particularly well balanced. Single casks don't have to be. They just have to be very memorable. But yeah, I think a 7 out of 10 for that. For any of you that are still here, I did go on a small rant about Bruichladdich, which is why I'm refilming this video. At the Oswars last year, they got the People's Vote for Distillery of the Year, which I think is really cool, because classic Laddie's still really accessible. Port Charlotte's really accessible and really affordable, and just a great bottle of whiskey. Octomores are more expensive than they've ever been, and they did then release a single cask Octomore about a month ago, and it's kind of almost identical to a 0.1 Octomore of any release, but it's 4 times the price pretty much. It's 440, well no, it's £400 a bottle, sorry. So 3 and a bit times the price. And I just can't see the justification for that. Yeah, it's a rare single barrel product, but it's not smokier than any other Octomore, it's not boozier than any other Octomore, it doesn't do anything that's different. I understand the attraction of single barrels, there are loads of them over there, but I just didn't get it. And that I didn't get it turned into a literally 20-minute rant. So this is why you're getting a shorter video this week. But yeah, with this thing, I'm gonna give it a 7. I can see why people would be put off by this. You would definitely not forget it. And that makes it fun in its own way, but it's not necessarily something you'd probably have at home to drink. I don't know how much this bottle costs either. This was sort of sent to me to do a review on a website for, and they just said keep the bottle. I will slowly work my way down it and share it amongst friends, because there's a fair chunk left in there. See what they think of it. But thank you all for watching. I have some incredible whiskies over there to review for you in the next coming weeks. There's 4 bottles looking at me, and they are all pretty outstanding things. But I will see you all next week, and Joe will have some videos out too, so keep an eye out for a couple of Joe videos. Cheers.